What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. It's Ron here. Hope you guys are doing very well. So guys, I don't know if you guys have heard, but Florida real estate, it's going through some stuff, man. First of all, you guys have heard, but there is some wild stuff going on with these condominiums, and the real estate prices are definitely being affected by higher interest rates, Americans being laid off, tourism seeing a slowdown, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell raising interest rates and making the cost of borrowing and obtaining mortgages much more expensive is not helping in the least bit. You may have heard that Rocket Mortgage offering 1% mortgage rates. Well, let me correct myself. Rocket Mortgage is not offering 1% mortgage rates. They're actually offering 1% down payments. And really, it's kind of like a modified FHA program, if you will. And normally, what you'd have is 3% down required to purchase a property, FHA, 3% down payment. But some people are having a difficult time coming up with that 3% down payment. So what Rocket Mortgage has done, they have decided to go ahead and cover 2% of the 3%. So let's just say you want to go ahead and buy a $500,000 house. Well, normally 3% would be, let's see, what's that, 5,000, that'll be like $15,000 for a 3% down payment on a $500,000 house, right? Well, Rocket Mortgage, they're willing to give you 10 grand toward your down payment. So instead of having to come up with $15,000 for your down payment, you only have to come up with $5,000. This is how desperate some of these mortgage companies are getting just to get business. In fact, I'm hearing more and more desperation from these banks and mortgage companies as the days go on. And one of the things I've heard recently is that some mortgage companies are begging people to come and buy a house so that they can earn some commission on the transaction. Because of course, these banks and mortgage companies, they're not making any money if you're not buying homes or refinancing the properties. So some banks and mortgage companies are offering to refinance your loan for free within the next 2 years if you buy a home using them as a mortgage. Because what they're saying is we know interest rates are high right now. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has raised interest rates. We know interest rates are high, but we need the business. So if you just come in and get a mortgage through us today, if you want to refinance at any point in time in the next 2 years, we will do it at no cost, or at least a drastic reduction in the cost. Now, I know someone who actually commented recently who was indicating that they got a refinance, and that refinance cost them $16,000 to get it done. Well, guess what? This is not the end of it. Florida insurance companies are also struggling to pay high, rising reinsurance rates. It's getting really wild out here, guys. Now, if you think that insurance rates are high, you should definitely see the amount that your insurance company has to pay for insurance. So it's not just you. So basically, you've got insurance companies just like us. They have to pay for insurance to protect their own interest. So you got rate hikes. They are expected to have 40% increases this year. So it's called reinsurance. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this reinsurance, it has to be paid for by the insurance companies, and it has to be paid for by June. And guess what, guys? There is all sorts of speculation that's coming out this year that the companies will not be able to spread their payments out over 6 months. This poses a brand new issue. Pay attention to the warning signs, folks. Pay attention to the warning signs, right? So instead, they're going to basically have to pay it all up front. And this could cause some insurance companies to go out of business. Now, you guys have watched my previous videos. We've already talked about how many companies have been forced to pull out of the state of Florida, they can't afford to do business here. Costs are so much more expensive, and simple fact of the matter is there were a lot of, let's just say, not so legit claims filed, and a lot of insurance money was claimed by, you know, I think you guys can connect the dots, right? Roofs being replaced may or may not have been necessarily impacted by, you know, Hurricane Ian or any other type of natural disaster, but whatever the case is, people took advantage of the opportunities, and unfortunately, this flood of insurance claims created a massive cost to insurance companies, forcing them to leave the state. Now, what do you think is going to happen for homeowners, real estate investors with properties in the state of Florida who need to have their properties insured? This is not good, folks, right? Now, a new Florida resident who has recently relocated from Wisconsin, but is paying much more to insure her new home in Florida. She went ahead and said that at least it's costing at least 50% more, but she knew it was always higher than this. She knew it was going to be increasing, but not to this extent. Now, Florida's got a really unique insurance crisis, and it's probably going to get equally bad, or at least similarly bad, in states like California. But Florida's insurance crisis has literally been skyrocketing insurance rates, and the companies have literally been going under, and policies have been getting canceled. Can you imagine your insurance policy on one of the largest assets that you own, which is your home, being just completely canceled? I mean, now imagine that, but also imagine that, you know, because some people say, well, Ron, you know, a mortgage is nothing more than I forget how it was put in a comment. A mortgage is nothing more than basically a noose around your neck, right? Well, imagine you're one of the lucky people. I don't want to say lucky. You're one of the fortunate few who had the ability to pay their home off. So let's just pretend you got a $500,000 house. It's fully paid off. But then all of a sudden, a natural disaster comes in, a hurricane. Let's just call it Hurricane Ian II, right? So this hurricane comes through, totals out the house, just completely levels the house, destroys, demolishes the house and everything around it, right? Meanwhile, everyone's filing insurance claims. You might be insurance claim number, I don't know, 100, because there's thousands of people filing these insurance claims in the vicinity to the exact same insurance company you have. Well, what if the insurance company pays out all of the money that they have before they get to be able to pay your claim? Well, guess what? You might have just lost $500,000 in assets because the property, the piece of real estate you thought was covered by insurance may no longer be covered. So, a representative from McDaniel Insurance Solutions said recently that companies saw a 50% increase in June, and they're expecting rate hikes to be nearly as much. So just know that the cost of living in Florida will be going up drastically more expensive, making renting costs much more expensive, and likely driving down the price of homes because more and more people will not be able to afford to purchase there.